Hello and welcome to the Lion's Den. We got Emmanuel, Daniel. I said it backwards, but that's okay. Daniel Emmanuel.
Just call me Detweiler Matthew.
Detweiler Matthew. Havanka Caleb here. Today on the Awaken show, we're going to be talking about self-defense and why it is our God-given right. It is not a government-given right, but a God-given right. And so we're going to talk about that, discuss that, especially with all this controversy going on around, gun ownership and whether or not people have the right to own guns. Let's dive into this.
So why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about self-defense?
We're talking about self-defense because it's very important, and it is used, people are using this as the reasoning behind owning guns.
Right, because there's a big push right now in the government
for gun control.
And so that kind of spurred this discussion on self-defense, and because some people want to argue, there's not a biblical right to have guns. Yes, there can be a biblical right to self-defense, but that doesn't mean that we have a biblical right to guns.
To a gun, yeah.
But destroy that argument, if you will.
Well, if the only way you can defend yourself from someone who has a gun is by you having a gun yourself. I mean, You can't defend yourself with a knife. Like, you never bring a knife to a gunfight, like the saying goes. Like, it has to be like equal.
Same level
like,
of lethality.
Exactly. Same level of ground there, playing field, a level playing field. So you need guns for self-protection, for self-defense.
Right.
Against someone who's using guns against you.
Right.
So
that just makes sense.
That's common sense.
Right.
Yeah. That just makes sense.
For the government to say, I'm a government official, I can have guns, but you can't have guns. Look, you can still have a knife to defend you.
Yeah.
Then what's to keep me from going to your house if I don't like your political views and just shooting you from 50 feet away? Mm-hmm. Unless you are really good at knife throwing and hitting me 100 feet away, but that's pretty good skills.
That's pretty impressive. And
I don't know which Bible they are talking about when they say you don't have a right to own a gun. When Jesus said in Luke 22:36, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. So he was literally saying for people to have a gun, which a sword is the equivalent of a gun in these days.
That was like their biggest weapon, right? Was a sword.
Yeah.
It was a sword.
That was their handgun. That was their rifle or whatever.
Yeah, because he could have said, why didn't he say, sell your cloak and buy a knife?
Yeah.
He said a sword. A
big
sword. And he didn't, you didn't buy a sword and hang it in your home back then. Like, you carried it with you.
Yeah.
So you're saying Jesus told his followers to carry a sword for self-defense. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
But didn't Jesus call for peace all the time? Didn't he call for turn the cheek? And didn't he reprimand Peter for slashing off an ear? Didn't he say
those who live by the sword die
by the sword? Yeah. What's with that?
Please.
When he said to Peter that he shouldn't slash the ear of that man, is because Jesus was clearly gonna give up his life. He was a lamb going to the slaughter, so he was not supposed to resist that evil, because it was for the sake of us, for the sake of God's plan, and even more for the sake of the gospel. And when we are supposed to suffer for the sake of the gospel, we are supposed to lay our lives down. But when we are to defend, Jesus was not going against the right to defend themselves when he said to his followers to turn the other cheek. Because in context, when you put the Bible in context, he was talking about, you have heard an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But now I say unto you, do not resist the one who is evil, but if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. So he's talking about retaliation, vengeance. He's saying, do not avenge yourself, but if somebody does something against you, do not try to answer that person with the same amount of evil or surpass the evil that he made to you. You know what I'm saying? It's not, It's trying to not answer evil with evil. That's the principle.
Right. So he's okay. So, that was for retaliation. That wasn't for self-defense.
Exactly.
But to bring another sword into this thing is some people use that to say that the government does not have a right to put the death penalty on people. But that's a whole different discussion.
That's a whole other discussion.
But just to comment on that is that he's talking personally. He's talking to the person. He's not talking to the government. So anyway, just thought I'd put
it's funny because the government use guns. Why do governments need weapons and guns?
to administer justice.
To administer justice, to enforce laws, and to also defend themselves against other governments and other nations.
Yeah.
So to
defend, like, why does why does Biden have all those people around him with guns to defend him?
To defend him. So it's like if children, this is a little off topic still, but I'm just making a point here. Like the whole solution to this whole school shooting thing is just putting guns in schools with people who can handle the guns, like
good
police
people with
officers.
guns.
Yeah, good people with guns. And then boom, there's no more school shootings. Like
no, that's right on topic. That's kind of what spurred this discussion.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It is on topic. Yeah. If self-defense was not a biblical mandate or wasn't biblical, then if I was the devil, I would just straight up kill every Christian on the earth. Like I would just, like there'd be no more Christians on the earth. There'd be no more good people on the earth because, well, Christians, not good people, but Christians who follow the Bible and believe this, because they would just lay down their lives and let bad, wicked people kill them. You know what I mean? So it's like,
right. It's like St. George Tucker said, the right to self-defense is the first law of nature, end quote. And when I hear that, I think of, okay, look at nature, look at animals. They all have a right to defend themselves.
that's right. Mm-hmm. To preserve their lives.
Right. Like they all fight against their enemy. Mm-hmm. So if that is nature, and we have, the Declaration of Independence says the laws of nature and of nature's God, then why, it's a natural right to be able to defend ourselves against danger. If we can't defend ourselves, then if a bear comes and attacks us, then why should we be able to defend ourselves against a bear? Like, it's just common sense. You defend yourself against evil.
Or against a threat, yeah.
Against a threat. Now there is a difference between self-defense and revenge, retaliation, which is what you were talking about.
Yeah. And also, I mean, even Paul in the Bible, we were talking about this before starting, even Paul in the Bible, he said, when they slapped him, he said,
this was in Acts, right?
It was in Acts. So why do you slap or hit a Roman citizen? And they were like, what? You're a Roman citizen? And they started treating him completely different, not touching him. They took the chains out of him. So he defended himself. Mm-hmm. It was with a legal argument, but he defended himself. And if you don't advocate for self-defense whatsoever, then that was sinful, literally.
Right. I mean, so let's look at some scriptures that encourage self-defense, I guess. And you had one, which was where Jesus said, "Sell your cloak and buy a sword." That was one.
Luke 22:36.
Luke 22:36. And then we have another one. Jesus says in Luke 11:21, he says, quote, "When a strong man, fully armed, guards his own house, his possessions are undisturbed," unquote. So how can a strong man be fully armed in the first place if he doesn't have weapons? So he needs a weapon to be fully armed. And you can't be fully armed against somebody with a gun if you don't have a gun.
Unless he's armed with these guns.
Ooh, look at them big boys. And but he says that he guards his own house. So Jesus is literally indicating that strong man, fully armed, is guarding his own house, and his possessions are undisturbed.
Yeah.
So it means that he's stewarding and guarding his own possessions. And he doesn't say that in a negative sense. He's just saying it. And then you have the book of Nehemiah, where in Nehemiah 4:14, it says, when quote, "When I saw their fear, I stood and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, 'Do not be afraid of them.'" He's talking about these enemies and the people that came and were intended to kill all the people that are building the wall. he said, "Do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who's great and awesome, and fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your houses." So there he's saying, fight for the people you love. And then in verse 16 to 18, he says, "From that day on, half of my servants carried on the work, while half of them kept hold of the spears, the shields, the bows, and the coats of mail, and the captains were behind all the house of Judah. Those who were rebuilding the wall and those who carried burdens carried with one hand doing the work and the other keeping hold of a weapon. As for the builders, each wore his sword strapped to his waist as he built."
Mm-hmm.
So that's self-defense right there. That's a biblical case of
And what
self-defense.
about Esther? The same with Esther. When
the story of Esther.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they were gonna murder all the Israelites in the kingdom, and she said, she didn't say, "Hey, revoke the mandate," which
they couldn't.
They couldn't. So she said, "Okay, then let the Israelites protect themselves."
Mm-hmm.
And they said it, and they did it, and they literally feast on it.
They did.
Yep.
It was people were scared of the Jews.
People
too,
were
when they had
really
that.
scared of the Jews.
And then we have this other scripture in Exodus 22:2, which upon further examination by us today, we found some different translations. But
I can read mine first if you want,
okay,
so you can
okay.
then read the correct one in a
Okay.
sense. So listen to what NIV says. "If a thief is caught breaking in at night and is struck a fatal blow, the defender is not guilty of bloodshed. But if it happens after sunrise, the defender is guilty of bloodshed." So, according to what I understand from this verse, as it reads right now, it's saying that when the defender kills the thief at night, during nighttime, he's not guilty of anything. But upon sunrise, he has to respond if he kills him.
So God is basically saying, you are justified in self-defense, killing somebody during the night. But if it's in the daylight, you can't kill somebody, even if he intends on killing you. But this passage does kind of specify a thief, which is what you said.
Yeah. So this is the NIV,
Right.
basically. So what other translations?
Yeah, I have the NLT. It says, "If a thief is caught in the act of breaking into a house and is struck and killed in the process, the person who killed the thief is not guilty of murder. But if it happens in daylight," it doesn't even say, first of all, at night. It just says, "If a thief is caught in the act of breaking into a house and is struck and killed in the process, the person who killed the thief is not guilty of murder." Verse 3, "But if it happens in daylight, the one who killed the thief is guilty of murder." That's the NLT. So it doesn't even say in the night. But yet, in the next verse, it says if it happens in daylight, the one who killed the thief is guilty of murder.
Interesting. So there's a lot of people out there commenting on that, saying that the reason it says in the night is because it's dark, you don't know what their intentions are. So if you kill them, it's okay. But if it's daylight, then you know more.
See,
You can see what he's doing.
And so, in a way that makes a little bit of sense, but to my mind, I was like, this does not make any sense.
no sense.
And so I read in the New American Standard Version, New American Standard Bible, NASB, it says it like this: "If the thief is caught while breaking in and is struck so that he dies, there will be no blood guiltiness on his account. But if the sun has risen on him," so it never changed, so it's talking about him, still the thief, "there will be blood guiltiness on his account." Talking about the thief again, his. "He shall surely make restitution. If he owns nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft." That's Exodus 22:23. So it never switches from the thief to the defender. It always talks about the thief. So this translation indicates that if the thief is killed during the night, all debts are paid. There's his blood was shed, so therefore his family doesn't owe the defender anything if he damaged the property or he stole a sheep or something before then. His blood was shed, so there's no blood guiltiness on the thief's account. It's all settled. But if he's still alive in the morning, then he needs to account for the damage he's done, and if he owns nothing, he has to sell himself. And 18th century Presbyterian minister and biblical commentator Matthew Henry he understood that because he said, if a thief is caught breaking in and is struck so that he dies, the thief owes no blood debt to the home defender. But if the thief lives, he owes a blood debt to the home defender and must make restitution, unquote. So he understood that translation, and I guess he believed that translation over the other ones.
Yep, exactly.
I feel like that makes so much more sense than the NIV and the NLT.
It makes way more sense.
It doesn't make any sense why God would say, I can kill somebody when he comes in during the night, but during the day, you can't. Like, that's just so
weird. And also the text after it says, but if it happens after sunrise, the defender is guilty of bloodshed. And it continues, anyone who steals must certainly make restitution. How if the person was killed?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it continues, but if they have nothing, they must be sold to pay for their debt.
I want to know how these scholars got this wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
It literally, I think hundreds and hundreds of scholars get together to like publish
new versions of the
Bible. New version of the Bible. So how did they miss this?
Because the ESV says it kind of similar to the
ESV basically says the same thing
as the NIV and the NLT.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, but anyways, even if the scholars got it right, and let's say this is the right translation, which I don't think so because it doesn't make sense, still you were allowed to protect yourself at night. So, at least at night, but you were allowed to protect yourself according to this doubtfully translated. But you were allowed to protect yourself.
Yeah, but the bottom line is that verse justifies killing somebody who comes to steal into your house. Or not even just your house, your property, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Property.
And David Barton said that this verse forms the basis of what is now known as the castle doctrine. The castle doctrine was established as English law by the 17th century jurist Sir Edward Coke in his writings called The Institutes of the Laws of England, 1628. He said, quote, for a man's house is his castle, and each man's home is his safest refuge, unquote. That was the concept, but the term castle, I guess, was defined in 1763 by Prime Minister William Pitt, first Earl of Chatham. I don't know how you say that, but I like what he said. He said, quote, the poorest man may in his cottage bid defiance to all the forces of the crown. It may be frail, its roof may shake, the wind may blow through it, the storm may enter, the rain may enter, but the King of England cannot enter, unquote.
I like that.
Wow.
And then
Heresy.
Founding Father James Wilson, a signer of the Declaration and Constitution and an original justice on the U.S. Supreme Court, also said, quote, homicide is required when it is necessary for the defense of one's person or house. Every man's house is deemed by the law to be his castle, and the law, while it invests him with the power, places on him the duty of the commanding officer of his house. Every man's house is his castle, and if anyone be robbed in it, it shall be esteemed his own default and negligence, unquote.
Yeah.
So you are the king of your home, of your castle.
Yeah. Like, we as Christians need to understand that our self-defense is not a vengeful reaction to an offense. It's a preemptive use of force to avoid a crime, to avoid a wrongdoing. So we need to think not only of our own when we do this, but what is the harm that we are doing to society if somebody robs us or somebody does wrong to our house or someone in our households, and we let him go right away to do the same thing to our neighbors. You know what I'm saying? So you should, like, if somebody's coming to do that to you, it's better for you to stop it than for the third or fourth household to stop him, or for nobody to stop him, and just he keeps doing wrongdoing and evil.
It's like that. It's like that sheriff in Florida. He encouraged the homeowners to, if an intruder comes in your house, like, shoot him. That way we don't have to deal with him.
Saves them bullets.
Yeah.
But I think what this whole boils down to is these anti-gun activists. Basically, they're not necessarily against self-defense, but they don't realize that taking away guns, people's right to own guns, is taking away people's right of self-defense. And
that's true. That's good.
What we need in society, in our culture, to realize is that guns are not the problem. It's people's hearts that are the problem. Like, Cain literally murdered Abel. The first murder in the Bible was from a rock.
If
Like-
God would have been a Democrat, he would have banished.
Yeah,
all the
he would
rocks
have
from
banned
the-
rocks. I'm proposing legislation right now to ban
To ban
rocks.
rocks.
Exactly. But it's just it's ridiculous. It's
No,
like
that's true. That's true.
it's
You're right.
guns are not the issue. Guns are a tool. People use tools, and it's how you use it. And I like how there's this one quote I read, or it said, "David carried a sling, Peter carried a sword, Samson carried a donkey's jawbone. A tool cannot be evil. How you use it is up to you." And that's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Guns are not evil. People are evil. And we need good people with guns to defeat bad people with guns. Just like we need righteous lions to defeat evil lions. We can't be lambs fighting lions, just like we can't have swords fighting guns. Like, it just doesn't work, you know?
Lions awaken.
That's right.
Use your sword.
Use your sword.
I saw this tweet that says, "As a German, I don't understand what guns have to do with freedom." And this guy answered, "As a Jew,
I do. Yeah, exactly.
So,
Wow,
and as a
that's-
Venezuelan, I do.
Yeah.
Because in my country, sometimes people always ask me, people ask me in the US,
Us.
Daniel, no,
We
people,
ask you this.
no,
I'm
a
saying
lot of
we
people,
ask you this, though.
Yeah, you do. But a lot of people ask me, like, if your government is corrupt, everything is unfair, like, it's a dictatorship. Why don't your people just take up guns and
Overthrow them.
And I'm like, well, because we don't have guns. That's a problem. So it's crazy because as a free people,
Wow.
I see the US eager to give up guns. But as the oppressed peoples of the world would love to have that right for just one day. So, and also armed peoples,
good.
they don't see the need for having an armed population because they do have it. But unarmed peoples, we do see the need for an armed population because we don't have any.
Yeah.
And also, like,
Good.
the prohibitions,
Take notes, Canada.
yeah, the prohibitions on guns, it's what happened in my country. They're not going to affect law-abiding citizens. They're not going to affect others, but law-abiding citizens, sorry. They're never going to be for criminals. When you put a prohibition for guns, they're going to affect only the law-abiding citizen, not the criminals. Criminals are going to still own all the guns. Like, if you have only 5% of the people that are criminals and the other 95% are not criminals, then that 95%, they are going to give up their guns when they become unlawful. But the 5% that never fulfill the law anyways, they're just never going to give away their guns and oppress the other 95%.
And now your country's run by gangs who have guns.
Yeah.
Exactly.
By criminals.
And,
Exactly.
and this is precisely why the Second Amendment was implemented, is because it's not, our biggest fear is not a single criminal coming in our home at night. That's not the biggest fear a population should be concerned about.
No.
It's the government literally coming in, dictating what you can and cannot do with their gun pointed at your head. And if you don't do it, they'll kill you. Like,
Yeah.
you're, oh, okay, well, that's extreme. No, that's reality. That's
Yeah.
history.
That's happening in my country. That's happening in my country.
Those steps are being implemented in my country right now.
Exactly.
With Trudeau banning handguns and certain rifles and things like that. The first step to government tyranny is removing the guns from the population.
That's exactly right.
That's how it works. This is
that's
history.
just by looking at history, yeah.
Exactly. And so that our biggest enemy is not a single criminal. Although, we got to be aware of that and we got to take note of that, but it is the government. The government
Right.
is the individual's biggest enemy, and we need guns for self-protection against the government who has guns.
Yeah, exactly. And the people that put that Second Amendment in, which, what does it exactly say? It says that the right of the people, the second half says the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. And the anti-federalists, basically, they pushed to have that in there because they wanted some kind of defense against a federal government that becomes too tyrannical. And we can look throughout history. I interviewed Don Brown the other day on Morning Star Journal News, and he said that which I've heard this before, the Japanese didn't want to invade the U.S. during World War II because they knew the population was armed. And the same way, there was another instance, Germany didn't want to invade because we were armed. And if you think about it, if we wouldn't have any guns, like if our own government wouldn't have taken us over by now, it would be China. Like China would have already taken us over because they Lord knows how much they want to take us over. But it's like, not only does it protect us from local criminals, it protects us from our government and foreign entities as well. And it gives us and again, it is a security, even though the Lord is ultimately our security. But it's not just, and a lot of people want to say it's a Second Amendment right. I get that. But it's not, actually I don't get that, because it's not a Second Amendment right. It's a God-given right that the Second Amendment acknowledges and recognizes that this is a natural right given to people that no man, it's an unalienable right that no man can take away. And we recognize that as government, it is our duty to actually protect that right, not give it away. So, and the Constitution is the law of the land. So for anybody to try to make a law that goes against the direct Constitution is violating.
And I know, I'm going to be honest to you, in an idealistic world where everybody wants peace and we all love each other so much, you don't need guns. You will never need guns.
Of course.
But we don't live in that world.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need guns.
But that's how...
Your truth hurts me.
I'm melting.
I hate you. I want to live in this idealistic... I'm just going to go into the virtual reality. I'll live my own life.
Yes, do it.
Screw you guys.
Too much common sense.
Zuckerberg world of metaverse. But I was going to say, the people pushing for anti-gun... gun control. They're making it seem like we can reach that place, that utopia, that place where it's all peaceful and it's flowery,
sounds just
and
like the devil.
Roses and all this stuff. And it's like, if they can just project that vision to the people and be like, listen, if only we just get rid of guns, then we can live in this world. And it's like, oh my God! They're literally slowly putting the chains on people's necks and what on their hands is while seducing them. You know what I mean? Like
they have the guns.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna reach that world of peace and order
exactly
under my control.
Yeah.
That's what they are saying.
Said Hitler, said Stalin, said Mao, said Xi, said
Chavez,
President Biden. Just kidding, he's not the president.
Fidel Castro.
Yeah,
all the dictators of the world. This is a common theme in history in government.
It's almost like the heart of man has stayed the same since the dawn of time.
Okay, can we cancel you, please?
Yeah.
Edit that out, editor, because...
fake news.
You don't have to edit that out. But speaking of governments, the history of governments, St. George Tucker, who I quoted earlier when he said the right to self-defense is the first law of nature, he also said, in most governments, it has been the study of rulers to confine the right within the narrowest limits possible. Unquote.
Yeah, that's dead on.
Governments want to take away our rights because there is evil people out there, people, and they want to take over our lives. And that's why we've had this, headbutt in America since it began. You have the people that want to control the people and the people that rise up and say, no, you're not going to take over my rights. And so it's just been like this since the beginning.
Yep.
And we need to continue to stand up for our rights. The Bible talks all the time about standing up, about standing firm. And
be courageous.
That means spiritually and physically. So, we are definitely law-abiding citizens, but we also stand up against evil. So,
and I like what Ronald Reagan said. Self-defense is not only our right, it is our duty. It is a duty for us to defend ourselves because God loves life, our lives.
Yep.
So we need to protect our own lives first in order to help other people as well. But self-defense, it's just crazy. Like if just on a national level, like if the West didn't defend itself from Nazi Germany, we'd all be speaking German right now and doing Sieg Heils. Maybe we still are. Even after the war. But
After watching Man in the High Castle.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it just it's the same principle, but on an individual level, and then you defend yourself from evil. Period. It's just common sense. You defend yourself from evil, from those who want to do you harm, and from those who want to do your family members harm, or even just innocent people harm.
Yeah,
It's just that simple.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the problem is that you couldn't even own a property if you don't have self-defense.
Exactly.
That's
Because
true.
then how are you gonna say this is my laptop?
Yeah.
How is your laptop if you cannot defend it from anybody else?
If you're just supposed to turn the other cheek, then you would just give me that
Yeah.
computer
But
all the time.
that's the same with your life, though.
Exactly.
Apply that to your life. This is my life. If it wasn't your life, if you're owned by someone else or the government or something else, then I don't know. Maybe you couldn't say that because it's not yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But our life is our own. It's from God.
Yeah,
So-
and I like what you said, that it's a duty. And I've, listening to Wall Builders podcast, Rick Green said that not only is self-defense a right, but it's a responsibility. Like God, if I'm the man of the house, God has given me the responsibility to defend my family
That's right.
against evil. So if I give up my guns willingly or even non-willingly, then I'm abandoning my duty to protect my household.
Yeah.
So as God-fearing men and leaders of the homes, we have to defend ourselves and our families, and we cannot give our guns.
Yeah,
that's
I
a
also think
responsibility.
there's,
that's
like-
being a steward of the home.
I think there's also like this Christian mentality of, well, God protects me. But yeah, God protects me. God provides for me.
Yeah.
But guess what? I
You gotta
also work.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, and God cares for, like, I sleep because God protects me, but I sleep in my bed, in my house, right? So
God comforts me. And then,
God comforts me. Yeah,
exactly.
But you need a comforter to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so my point is that God will protect you, but you also have the right to bear arms to perform that protection that God is gonna do at the end. Because if God wants, you're just gonna fall asleep so deeply that you will not be able to wake up, and whoever it is gonna kill you, and that's it.
And if God would always defend you, then why would he say that if a thief is caught while breaking in and is struck so that
Exactly.
he dies, that
Exactly.
there's no
Why,
guilt?
why
on
would he
his son?
say any of this scripture?
Exactly. Why would he say sell your cloak and take up a sword? Why would he say if a strong man fully armed defends his house, then his possessions are
No,
safe,
but I'm just
basically.
saying that some people want to use that argument.
Yeah.
That
No,
God is-
I know. That's what I'm talking to. Those kind
Yeah.
of not. I'm talking to that ideology. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like it's almost like when with the castle doctrine, I'm literally viewing this like as like kingship. Like the father, the husband is the king of his home, and by him basically forfeiting his right and his responsibility and duty to protect his family, and by doing so owning a gun, it's almost like he's like surrendering his crown to the government and like surrendering his authority and responsibility to the government, which I think is anti-biblical and anti-God,
Yeah.
because you're literally giving away your authority, your responsibility to someone else, which I think in a sense is idolatry, because you're trusting in the government more than God who gave you that authority.
Yeah, it's like grabbing all your money,
Yeah.
every bit of your salary, and saying, I'm going to give it to the government, and the
Yeah.
government is going to administer it for me,
Yeah.
everything. Because then it's the same, but with the force, with the use of force. You're giving all the use of force to one entity so that entity can administrate everything for you.
Yeah.
Right. But in God, which comes back to God's delegation of government, right? He gave the family an authority, their own government. He gave the church their sphere and their authority and their government. And he created the civil government to protect those entities, to protect those freedoms, and to administer all the other stuff among them. So it's like, yeah, that's basically all I had to say.
It's all made up. This is all made up. This is garbage. The bottom line is give your gun to the government.
Give your guns
and just
away.
Forfeit
Give them
all your
away.
rights.
Exactly.
But it really does boil down to, it's just a God-given right, and the government can't take it away. And if it does, fight for it.
And, even simply by having guns doesn't mean that you will ever use them.
Exactly.
But by simply having guns and being a force to reckon with, that might prevent you from ever having.
Like the Japanese invasion that never happened.
Exactly.
That was a
That's
self-defense
right
in
there.
itself.
That's literally it.
Exactly. And how much of your president, like, I'm going to be honest with
It's
you guys.
peace through strength. That's
How many of your presidents don't you think that they have had tyrannical inclinations or desires in their hearts?
Like the one right now.
Only Donald Trump.
I mean,
Only Donald Trump.
Be honest with me, guys. Being president of the most powerful nation on earth, and they didn't want to take more power to themselves and just do away with the government and oppress everybody. Probably some of them had those desires, but why did they never do it? Because all your people are
have
armed.
guns.
No president of the U.S. can do that.
It's a check of power.
It's a check of power.
Which is why the only people that want to get rid of our guns are the people that want to control us.
Exactly. And who the people that don't even use guns, but they hire people
To protect
them with guns.
Yeah.
Exactly. So why no American government has never wanted to take away the guns? Maybe because they didn't want to. They didn't have that much of tyrannical inclinations. But when you see a politician or a government that wants to take away your guns, then you know where it's coming from. Exactly.
Hey, Joe Biden said the Second Amendment is not absolute.
So chill.
Or the Constitution is not absolute. Therefore, the Second Amendment
Is not absolute.
is not absolute.
Yeah. Wow. Joe Biden, just thank you so much for all you've done for me and my country, and
right.
wanting to just genuinely take care of me where I don't have to take care of myself, and I'll just give you my guns and just gladly give it over. I really appreciate all that you're doing, and just killing babies and stuff like that. That's such a patriotic thing to do, and
It's his duty.
yeah, so
It's his duty to be evil. Also, thank you, Joe Biden, for making my pockets a lot lighter. I appreciate it. Now I
Yeah.
can walk faster. I can run faster because I
Yeah,
don't
it
have
just
all that
makes
money in
everything so
my
much
pocket
easier.
anymore because you stole it. Thank
yeah.
you.
Exactly. And I can't wait till you have full control of my life, so I don't even have to think about what to do in my life. I can just wake up and I can just basically just do what the 1984 book said to do, where I can just stand up, stand in front of the TV, you tell me what to do,
I'll do it.
I come home, and I just do what you tell me to do. Just such a beautiful life.
I can't wait for Elon Musk to make robots so that we don't have to literally do anything.
Yeah, that's going to be so amazing.
What are you
just
talking
do.
about? We're
Then I
gonna
can just live in the
eternally
metaverse.
because we're going
That's
to have chips in our brain that are going to be integrated, and we're going to have robotical bodies where our conscience are going to go.
Transcendence.
That's transcendent.
Can't wait for that. All right. Well, we got to get going. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this brought some clarity on the self-defense issue. If you guys liked it, please share, subscribe to our YouTube page, comment on our YouTube page, tell us what you guys think. Follow us on Facebook. Check out our website at lionsawaken.org and
Instagram.
And Instagram as well. We have an Instagram page where you post some stuff mostly. So anyway, we'll see you next time.